when the class is over, I will post it to YouTube. I do that in case you have to miss the class, and it's a way for you to get the attendance points. So if you have an excused absence, you can watch the YouTube video, and I think in the syllabus there's a form you fill out, and when you give that to me, I'll see to it that you get the points for being here that day if you have an excused absence, traveling with a team, or you're sick, or in a family emergency. My advice to you to thrive in this class is, the first thing, come to class, okay? If you want to thrive in a job, great advice, show up to the job, right? This is your job for these years. It's your work to show up to class. So look at this the same way you would look at a job. So if you want to thrive, very first thing, come to class. This class is going to be enjoyable. It's going to be a dialogue. So first advice. The second is to do the homework. Now, we're going to meet together about 40 times in this class, and I forget what the syllabus says, but you're responsible for a number of homework assignments, and doing that is going to just help you immensely. And the advice how to do that, do it in groups. So you're welcome to get 2, 3, 4, 10 people if you want. Get a time where you do the homework together, put all your names on the work you do, and then have each person in the group upload that one copy to their homework. And it will be a fun way where you can talk with other people as you do this work. It will make it much less onerous if you do it in groups, and you'll probably develop some great friendships along the way. So do that. Learn the memory verses. We're going to memorize a little bit longer section of Scripture. This is a really helpful, practical thing about what it means to be a Christian. We're going to talk a lot about this passage, and so begin to learn the memory verse so that by the end of the semester you can recite that. Read the textbooks. There are 2 short textbooks in this class. One is called Concise Theology, and it's kind of traditional Christianity, no frills, but like, what have Christians always believed? An easy book to read. It won't take very long. Second book is by John Piper, and it's called Sex and the Supremacy of Christ. And if you want to see someone come to the New Testament and then give you some really good practical advice about what that means to be a Christian, that's a great book. John Piper is one of my favorite authors. He is so clear. He's so helpful. This is a collected essay. I doubt that you'll read that book and find it boring at all. This is a book, it's only about 200 pages, written very well, very, very practical in terms of taking the teaching of the New Testament and examining an important area. And then lastly, this class is going to be a two-way conversation. And so it's not going to be a class where I come and lecture for an hour. I don't like teaching that way. We're going to talk back and forth, and I'm going to bribe you to talk in class by giving you a point extra credit. If you talk that day in class, when you leave, just say, I made a comment. I'll see to it that you get an extra point for your final grade. So that's my advice for you to thrive in this class. Every day we're going to start out with a question from me, and it's going to be this question: what did you find interesting about the homework? And I believe that the most important part of this class is your interaction with the biblical text. I don't believe that I have wisdom to give you and that I'm the most important. I think the Bible is the most important. And so the question we're always going to start out with is, what did you find interesting in the homework? And so I've set up the bribe to get you to talk in this class. So who wants to be first? What did you find interesting in the homework? Who'll be the very first one to earn an extra credit? What did you find interesting? Yes, and tell me your name. Drew. What did you find interesting, Drew? Right. When you look at John 1 and you look at Genesis 1, those passages are really similar. In fact, it looks to me like John is giving us his commentary on Genesis 1. And so right off the bat, you've got this very interesting connection. And one of the things that we're going to see in this class is that the whole Bible is connected like that. In fact, the whole Bible, the whole New Testament, is retelling stories from the Old Testament. And once you realize that, all those difficult questions, or many of the difficult questions, begin to find resolution because you realize that the Jesus event is actually explaining how we should rightly understand the Old Testament stories. That's called a Christocentric approach to the New Testament, and it's something I believe very much. Very good, Drew. Who else? Somebody who found something interesting in the homework. Well, let me ask a second question. What are some of the questions that you had? When we read through the New Testament, we're not going to avoid difficult passages. When we come to a difficult passage, we're going to look at it, and this is a great opportunity for us to look at questions that you have as we're working through John, and we'll work through Romans as well. Did you have any questions as you work through the homework? Yes, tell me your name.
Alex.
Oh, are you Andrews?
Yes, sir.
Oh, you kind of look like Andrew Rollins is my oldest son's best friend, so it's nice to meet you. Good.
So throughout the Bible, we have this concept of grace, how God's grace is sufficient. And one of the questions I had when I was reading Kings is, why didn't that grace show to the men that he struck down? So Athens came up with their 50 men, and they didn't seem to have that same grace.
Right. So when you come to the New Testament, you've got this, whosoever will may come. It's just grace, grace, grace. But when you're in the Old Testament, it seems like that grace almost isn't there. And so Elijah comes, and the guy says, come down. And Elijah says, I got your come down here, bud. Boom, you're dead. And then 50 more. Boom, you're dead. 50 more. And the guy says, look, I just work here. My boss sent me, and we got family, so please, and so you have that. It's interesting that Elijah is kind of this judgment, fire from heaven, and then he's followed by this character Elisha. And I don't know if I had you read that in the homework, but army comes to Elisha. They're struck blind. He leads them into the king's palace, and then he gives them sight again, and the king says, should we kill him? And Elisha says, no, feed him a banquet, show him grace, and they become allies. And so you do have this tension in the Old Testament between, where's the grace, and you get glimpses of grace. But we're going to see that the Jesus event actually gives us a way to interpret not only the justice of God, but how the grace of God comes. So that's a fantastic question. Other questions or observations before we dive in? This is exactly what I want to do every day. Yes, tell me your name.
Abby John.
Abby.
I was wondering when I was reading about Elijah, good enough, or like what was the qualities he had that made him eligible to receive Elijah's spirit times double? Like, and then how could we receive that same reward or reap the same reward?
Abby, that is a fantastic question. So when we look at the Old Testament and the New, is it somehow that like these people are like inherently better than other people? And some interpreters of the Bible are going to say yes, that God looks down the long corridor of time, kind of sees who will respond, and then gives grace to those people. A lot of other people are going to say that's the exact opposite of what the Bible teaches. What the Bible teaches is that we're all sinners, we're all dead in our trespasses and sins, that inherently we all deserve God's judgment, but God is so gracious that he finds a way to get people like us, flawed, sinful people, in heaven. And that's going to be a major thing, so that's a fantastic observation and question. Anything else before we dive in? Yes, tell me your name. Buddy.
So there are references to like Elijah's spirit, right? Is it possible that we could interpret this as some sort of reference to the Holy Spirit? Because it seems to be rather unique.
Right. There's something going on in the story where, and we're going to dive into it, where, Elijah crosses the Jordan. He's kind of doing a reverse conquest where Israel tried to take the land, and Elijah is kind of doing that backwards. He goes to the mountain, same mountain that Moses died on, and Elijah is taken up into heaven, and then Elisha gets his spirit, comes in just like Joshua, splits the water and goes in. And so he's kind of like the prophet 2.0. And Elijah and Elisha do similar miracles. They both multiply oil. They both raise a little boy from the dead. Elisha, the second one, has massive mercy. Elijah has very little mercy. And so how do we understand that? How do we understand the spirit, the power of it, Elijah? And how is a Jesus event informing that? That's a fantastic observation and question we're going to look at. Anything else as we walk through? Yes, tell me your name. Ryan.
I had a couple questions, but the main one I wanted to ask is, in the John passage that we read, and it talks about the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and everyone always says that's about Jesus. And how did we get that the Word equals Jesus, like when it talks about the Word?
That's a fantastic question. What we're going to see as we go through the entire book of John, and then if we want to look at 1 John, it talks about us handling the Word. We didn't just see, we actually touched. And we're going to see 1:18, we beheld his glory as of an only one from the Father, full of grace and truth. So it's really the whole Gospel of John that's going to help us see, whatever this thing that's being called the Word, when we're looking at this person on earth, those things are connected. That's a great question. And you had a second question, you said?
It was just about in the First Kings reading. Why do you think God let the little boy die? The little boy
Yeah.
Elijah.
Yeah. So isn't it Elisha that kills the little boy with the bears?
No, the other one, the Elijah. The one where Elijah goes to the old woman who is picking up the sticks, and
Oh, why he lets that little boy die and then raise him? So what's going on? I don't know if you picked this up when you did the two readings, but like Elijah, weird thing, lays the little boy on a bed, lays on him 3 times, gets up and prays, God, please, please, lays on him, please, please, lays on him. The little boy's body gets warm. I don't know if Elijah's like trying to jumpstart him or something, but like that's weird. Elisha comes along and he does the same thing, but did you pick up he only does it twice? So when he lays on the little boy, same thing, the lady puts the dead boy in his room and he lays on the little boy and then he prays. He lays on the little boy, prays, and then God raises him. And the question is, like, why did God let that happen? I don't know all the reasons why he let it happen, but I think one of the reasons he let it happen is because Jesus in Luke 7, I don't know if I had that in the homework or not, but he comes to a city called Nain. And if you take time to look up where Nain is, Nain and Shunem are the same place. So it's the same place where the Elisha miracle happened. And there's this widow who's bringing out a dead little boy. And you say, I know what's going to happen. Jesus is going to take that little boy, put him on a bed, he's going to lay on him, pray, and it's going to be so nice. 3, 2, 1, perfect. But in Luke 7, it doesn't say that. In Luke 7, it says they're bringing the little dead boy out, and Jesus comes up and touches the coffin thing that they're carrying him on. And then Jesus says, little boy, I say to you, get up. And so, like, you've got this super prophet in the Old Testament 3 times, the super prophet 2.0 2 times. Jesus doesn't lay on the boy or pray to God at all. He says, little boy, I say to you, get up. And then Luke reasons, so many people thought that a great prophet, this is Elisha's been here before. He lived here in Shunem. And other people said, no, God has visited his people. And so I think part of those details are that Christocentric meta-narrative, plot symmetrical, elegant, God intended Christocentric orientation of the entire Bible. That's kind of what I think. Yes, tell me your name.
Jacob.
Jacob.
Before he said all that was a lot of really good information. I was thinking about the Elijah spirit part, and I thought it was interesting that when we fast forward to the New Testament, all of them knew of Elijah spirit, Elijah being the prophet, the one everyone knew about, and then when fast forward to Christ talking about, or we were introducing John as John the Baptist. And later on, John says, the least of you is greater than John the Baptist. And John the Baptist's introduction said that he had the power of Elijah, that he was as powerful, if not more powerful. He was the greatest prophet.
Yeah.
And so then you think about that, you're like, well, Elijah was this powerful, Elisha was this powerful. John's better than them, but the least in the kingdom is greater than them.
That's a great point, Jacob.
Just incredible.
That's a fantastic point. Good. Anything else? This is great. Thank you. I love to have two-way dialogue. Anytime you have a question, please raise your hand. So, connection between Genesis 1 and John 1. We've seen in the beginning, you've got all things were made through him. Genesis 1 says, in the beginning God created. Genesis 1 has light and darkness. It talks about in him was life, and the life was the light of mankind, and the light shines in the darkness. John's almost quoting verses there, and he's saying what that was pointing forward to He's saying this is an actual, factual, historic event that at the same time is pointing beyond itself to a spiritual truth, a truth about Jesus. And so you have the Spirit of God hovering over the abyss. What do we know about the abyss? Well, we know in the New Testament it's translated the bottomless pit, the place where there's no bottom to it. And we know that demons are terrified because when Jesus delivers the Gadarene demoniac, the demons beg Jesus not to send them to the abyss. And this is talking about an initial creation before the waters are joined together. It's describing that as the abyss. That seems really weird. And then God comes to this thing that is dead, dark, without form, void, looks like it's under the waters of judgment, and God begins bringing grace. God says, let there be light. God said the light was good. God separated the light from darkness. And John is saying, when you read that story, realize it's not just history. It's history, but it's more than history. It's God writing a novel in facts, but the novel is actually pointing forward to Jesus, every single page of it. And a lot of what we're going to do in this class is to see that. So we start off with the connection, John 1 and Genesis 1. This is a picture of all the cross references in the Bible. So somebody just read through the Bible, and anytime a part of the Bible goes and cross references another Bible, they just drew a line. This is the line between the Old Testament and the New. You can see in this story that the Bible is all about cross references. So if we went to the Elijah story and healing the little boy, we're going to end up in the New Testament with healing the little dead boy, widow's son at Nain. So the Bible is massively connected. In fact, I've bought tens of thousands of dollars worth of commentaries, but I can tell you this: the best commentary, the best commentary on the Bible is the Bible. If you want to know what the Bible says, look at how the Bible comments on itself, and you're going to be amazed where that takes you and how many of the difficult questions that it's going to help you answer. A little bit about me. I became a Christian when I was 18 years old. I was in my car driving to a secular state school. If you remember, there used to be pornographic magazines, Playboy and Penthouse. The secular school that I went to ranked the biggest party schools in America, and it didn't list my school. But it did put an asterisk and said, we don't list this school because we don't like ranking professionals with amateurs. So the school that I went to was ranked by Penthouse or Playboy, whatever, as the biggest party school in America. I'm driving to college. I'm kind of expecting to live that lifestyle. And I can't tell you what happened other than to say I got in my car as an unhappy pagan, and I got out of the car as a believer. And you say, well, what happened? I don't know. I think God happened on my way to college. I got involved in a great Christian group at that college and was discipled and began to learn the ways of God. But one of the real fears that I had was, can the Bible stand up to rigorous scrutiny? That is, do the questions undermine the truth of the Bible or not? And it bothered me so much that I ended up going into biblical languages. I was a classical Greek major there at the school, and I ended up taking biblical Hebrew there as well. And I can tell you this, I've spent a lifetime looking at rigorous questions, and for me, I can just say that every day I spend with the Bible, the more I believe that it's true, and that it's absolutely true, and that it will stand up to rigorous scrutiny and rigorous questions. So we're not going to be afraid of those questions in this class. In fact, some of the class will be exactly studying those questions. And I want to point out something that I saw in the Hebrew Bible, and I remember going to the class, and having the professor just bring up everything wrong with the Bible. But I remember being able to read the text in Hebrew, and I want to read this to you. That this, I don't know if you know this Hebrew Bible. It claims to be 3,500 years old. It's within 600 years of being the oldest written anything on planet Earth. It's a beautiful language. It's so old it's read from right to left, so it reads this way. And it's a beautiful language. It says this: Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz, ve'haaretz hayita tohu vabohu, ve'hoshek al pnei tehom ve'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim, vayomer Elohim yehi or vayehi or vayar Elohim et haor kitov vayavdel Elohim bein haor uvein hahoshek. Vayikra Elohim laor yom va lahoshek kara layila vayihi erev vayihi boker yom echad. That's a very beautiful thing. In fact, all three of the major monotheistic religions in the world believe that that's from God. Judaism believes it, Islam believes it, and Christianity believes it. And there's a problem in this text. It's a problem every single person who's ever read it recognizes it. And it has to do with these two words, bara Elohim. 3 words into the Hebrew Bible, and you've got this major problem. Bereshit bara Elohim. Can the Bible stand up to rigorous scrutiny? And how do I know at the core of who I am that Christianity is true when Judaism is saying we're true and Islam is saying we're true? All three monotheistic religions in the world say these are the words that God spoke. Many people would say if we were in a Muslim country, we would be having a class on the Quran, how the Quran is true. How do I know at the core of who I am that Christianity got it right? Well, let's look at this problem, and you tell me. 3 words, Bereshit bara Elohim. First word, Bereshit. Bereshit means in the beginning. The be part of it is in, and then the reshit is the beginning part. So in Hebrew, you put the prepositions connected to the words. And so that text says in beginning. And there's not much debate. Everybody who's ever read it said, yeah, that's what it says. When we come to the second word, bara, bara is the word create. But it isn't just create, it's actually the word he created. So when we come to the second word of the Bible, it's describing the creator, and it's describing that creator as a he versus a she. Now, how many of you have taken a foreign language? Okay, what are some of the foreign languages you've taken? Latin. Who took Latin? Good. You remember those conjugation charts, amo, amas, amat? So that's going to be important. Who else? What languages have you taken?
I also took Latin.
Latin. You've memorized. What else? Spanish. I can't say the conjugation, but you remember how you had to memorize that conjugation for what else? German. You remember how you had to memorize those ich, mach. Every language but English has a thing called conjugation charts. I think I missed putting that chart in. But you have to memorize things like amo, amas, amat, amamas, amatis, amant. I love, you love, he, she, or it loves, we love, you love, they love. Same thing for German, same thing for Spanish, same thing for French. And the little bits on the end of the verb tell you, is it I or you or he, she, or it? Well, Hebrew, instead of having the 6 that we all had to memorize in those languages, it has 10. So in Hebrew, when you come to a verb, you put a little bit on the end and it tells you, did a man do this or did a woman do this? It tells you, is the you you're speaking to a man or a woman? Is the you you're speaking to one person or a group of people? And when you come to the word bara, the only thing bara can mean is he created. It can't mean she created. It can't mean they created. It can't mean anything but he created. That's what the verb tells you 2 words into the Hebrew Bible. So 2 words into the Hebrew Bible, you're presented with a view of the Creator as there's one person who created everything, and that one person is choosing to describe himself as a man versus a woman. Now, before you think the Bible is anti-woman, just hang on. We're going to get to the place where we're going to see the Bible is so gloriously pro-woman. We're just not going to do that discussion right now. We're going to do this one first. So I'll bet you know more Hebrew than you think you know, and I want to try to prove it to you. So in Hebrew, you've got words like horse, and the word horse is the word sus. We get the word Susanna from it, which I think means something like she who's graceful with horses or something like that. So if you're talking about one horse in Hebrew, it's a sus. If you're talking about a fish, oddly enough, in Hebrew is the word dog, right? What is a dog in Hebrew? Well, it's how you say the word fish. What's a cherub? Cherub. What's a seraph? If you want to make those words plural, the way you convert a singular word to a plural word in Hebrew is you add im on the end of it. So if one horse is a sus, what would a bunch of horses be in Hebrew? How would you say it? You want to say bunch of horses. You would say susim, right? You add im to the end of any word, it's going to convert it to a plural. One fish is a dog. How would you say a bunch of fish? Dogim, you get a point for that. That's exactly right. One cherub is a cherub. What's a bunch of cherubs? Cherubim. Those flaming things, we don't know what they are in Isaiah 6. One's called a seraph. What are a bunch of them called? Seraphim. So tell me the difference between the word Eloah, and you heard it when I read it, didn't you? Elohim. What's the normal way you would translate Elohim? Bunch of gods. But can you translate it bunch of gods in Genesis 1? No, because the verb tells you that that bunch of gods is a he. In the beginning, he, that is Elohim, he created the heavens and the earth. Do you see why John says in John 1, in the beginning was the Word? and the Word was with God. That looks like plurality. And then John says, and the Word was God. John is saying, you know how the rabbis could never explain to us why Elohim doesn't agree with the verb? Let me tell you about this God-man, Jesus. This Word is with God, and whatever that undefined unity of a He is, the Word is inside that, not outside that. And notice what John says, all things were made through Him, and without Him there was made not one single thing. In Him was Zoe, life. Same word translated Eve in the Old Testament. Eve was inside Him, and the Zoe is the light of men. The light shines in the darkness. These are connected. Jacob, you had an observation.
It was just me seeing a lot of hymns in church that I go to, and so when I remember seeing high above the seraphim, so is it actually seraphim? I didn't even I just made that connection. That was all.
Yeah, the plural. That's exactly right. So which one of the three worlds monotheistic religions teaches that God is a plurality within a unity? Which one of the monotheistic faiths teaches that? The only monotheistic faith that teaches that. Christianity. This was written 3,500 years ago. 3 words into the Hebrew Bible, and you've got a view of God as a plurality within a unity. That feature happens on every single page of the Hebrew Bible. I went to secular classes where they're trying to tell me that the Bible is just another book, and I'm coming and reading the Bible, and God is helping me see the connections, and it's like, there is no way that this Christocentric thing is happening unless there's a God who hid the story of Jesus in plain sight in the Old Testament. It's part of what we're going to look at this class. And you can see, this is the word God. It's written like that in, I think it's Deuteronomy 4 writes it like that. The other thousands of places where it's written like this. And you can see that's the exact ending. In fact, we could have a list of 10,000 words. And if you want to convert it to a plural, add "im" to the end. And you can see with your own eyes, does that have "im" on the end of the word or not? It has "im." And you heard it when I read it. Bereshit bara. It doesn't say Eloah at Hashemayim. Bereshit bara Elohim. So the Elohim is telling you this He that I'm describing as the Creator is actually some kind of plural entity. He's a He, but He's also a they. He's an I, we. And every single description of God in the Old Testament is that tension of a He, they, of an I, we. And then you come to the New Testament and you start hearing about who is this Jesus. And the New Testament writers are saying, well, Jesus is inside that concept, not outside. He's not a created being. He's inside. Here's our Latin chart. I love, you love. Here's the Hebrew one, Latin, the paradigm word is I love. Hebrew, the paradigm word is I kill. That seems really strange to me, but he kills, she kills, you man kill, you woman kill, I kill, they kill, you all men kill, you all women kill, we kill. And you can see katal, 2A class vowels, and bara, 2A class vowels. That can only be he created. But when the he created is described as a plural being. Very first word in Genesis introduces a grammatical riddle in that the word God, Elohim, is really a plural word. Some people try to say, oh, Elohim isn't plural. Elohim is absolutely plural. When it says, you will have no other gods before me, in Hebrew, it says Elohim Aharim, spelled exactly the same way. Elohim, it is a plural word. It's used as plural throughout the Hebrew Bible. It's only when it's put with a singular verb that it makes you try to come up with a way to describe this plurality within the unity. Thus, the very first words of the Bible introduce a view of God, which hints at God as a plurality within a greater unity. What about this Elijah thing? We have 7 minutes. How are we to understand this figure? And we have what looks like a contradiction in the Bible. They asked John the Baptist, what then, are you Elijah? And John the Baptist says, I am not. I am not Elijah. Are you the prophet? Moses said, a prophet like me will come. Are you that person? He answered, no. The problem comes when Jesus is coming down from the Mount of Transfiguration, and the disciples say, well, doesn't the Bible say in Malachi 4 that before Christ comes, Elijah has to come? And Jesus says, if you're willing to accept it, John the Baptist, that's the he there, is Elijah. So they ask John the Baptist, are you Elijah? He says, no. Jesus says he was Elijah. How do we do that? Is that like this contradiction? I think what they're asking John the Baptist is, are you Elijah reincarnated? Remember that Elijah didn't die in the Old Testament. He was taken up bodily into heaven. And so they're asking, are you reincarnated Elijah? And John is saying, I'm not. But we do know that John, in terms of his clothes, wore camel's hair and a leather belt was around its waist. And remember how we saw that slide of cross-references? If we went to the cross-reference to this verse, the cross-reference would take us to 2 Kings 1. And this wicked king worshiped demons his entire life. He's about to die. He sends people to these pagan demons to find out if he's going to die. And he meets Elijah. And Elijah says, go back, tell the king he's going to die. And so they come back and tell him. And the king says, what did he look like? And he said, well, he wore a garment of hair and a leather belt was around his waist. And the king says, that was Elijah. So if there's no connection between John and Elijah, it is very odd that John is choosing to wear the clothes that look like Elijah. So I think when you put all those together, John is saying, I'm not reincarnated Elijah, but the Elijah promise, very last verse in the Old Testament, absolutely, I am that Elijah. And that's what Jesus is saying. The promise that verse was making is being fulfilled. And in fact, God is completely silent in those 420 years. The last chronological thing he says, I'll send Elijah, and the very first word he gives is when John the Baptist is born. We do see in Elijah and Elijah that they perform miracles, multiply oil, and Elisha multiplies oil, but he does a lot more of it. We've seen the raising the sun. we see that Elijah doesn't really have much mercy. Elisha is all about mercy. You know, we got these army people here. Should we kill them? And he says, no, you should feed them. You do have two statements of judgment. I don't know what to do that with Elisha, because I think these figures are foreshadowing John the Baptist and Jesus. And Elisha does have the day when the kids mock him and he calls the bears out and the bears kill it. I'm not sure what to do with that. I do know that Elijah was born outside the promised land and Elijah inside the promised land, and I do know that the place where Elijah was taken up into heaven is the place where Moses died. And I do know that the place where Jesus is baptized is the same place Joshua crossed. And I do know in Hebrew that the word Elisha is from two words, El, which means God, and Yasha, which means salvation. And I do know that Joshua's name is Yeshua. And I do know that the word Yeshua in the Greek is translated to Jesus. And I do know that Jesus is translated in English as Jesus. And if that's true, then the name Elisha means my God is Jesus. I don't know. Do you think God might have meta-narrative details that he's hiding in this story? It's like, just give me more evidence. It's like, okay, let's glory of God to hide things, the glory of kings to search them out. What if that's what John is telling us, that the whole Bible is like that? It's just one Christocentric, glorious, meta-narratival, plot-symmetrical elegance. That's what we're going to study in this class. Thank you. If you made a comment to get an extra credit, put your name down and I'll see you on Wednesday.